I think we have no excuse if we say that we don't really have the resources to learn, because everything is given towards us. We scientists don't only work in the lab, but we could have a contribution beyond it as well.
Welcome back to another episode of Global Future Talks as part of the Global Future X movement by Pijar Foundation. My name is Indira Zahra-Aridati, and I'll be your host for today. Today's episode is still part of our Breaking Barriers series, where we deep dive into the topic of women in leadership. I'm very excited to welcome our guest today, Ms. Chrissy Rugian. She is the fourth runner-up of Puteri Indonesia 2022. Hello, Chrissy.
Hello, Kak Indira. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being with us here today. So maybe to start us off, could you tell me a little bit about your background and what you're busy with currently?
Yep. So currently, as you've mentioned before, I was given the opportunity to become the fourth runner-up of Puteri Indonesia 2022. And previously, I represented Banten province, my home. And I just also recently finished my master's degree in biochemical engineering from University College London. So basically, when I finished all of my final presentations, I signed up for Puteri Indonesia, and then here we go. And of course, currently I am probably busy with the assignments of or duty as Puteri Indonesia, and to keep spreading my advocacy in regards to women in science as well.
Wow, those are two very big achievements in
Thank
professional
you.
and personal lives as well. So first of all, congratulations on your Puteri Indonesia journey. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and maybe some key takeaways that you took from the competition, as well as maybe the networking that you have had the opportunity to embark on afterwards?
Yeah, actually, joining Puteri Indonesia was a life-changing moment for me, because not only that, I get to have 43 new friends from all over Indonesia, from all over the 34 provinces, but also it's multidisciplinary platforms as well, because our backgrounds are highly diverse. Some of them are entrepreneurs, some of them are social activists, and some of them are like me in the field of STEM as well. So it's a platform for us to generate new ideas and then exchange our ideas as well, and to maybe in the future, hopefully we could collaborate our projects, and of course to have an impact for our society.
Wow, that sounds like a very interesting journey, and one that you probably had to train for.
Of course. I had some preparations for Puteri Indonesia as well.
Yeah. And I think another congratulations is that you recently finished your master's degree, and that was in biochemical engineering.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, that's correct.
Wow, and I know you've used the Puteri Indonesia platform to talk a lot about, women in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that is also the topic of our podcast today. Okay. It's to talk about women in STEM. You talked a little bit about your platform, Curious, which is, I think I love the play on words.
Curious.
Yeah, exactly. Marie Curie. And so can you talk a little bit more about that, and how do you see, the STEM landscape in Indonesia and globally?
Yep. So actually, correct. So curious means that to have that curiosity, but it was also inspired by Marie Curie. She was the first woman to earn the Nobel Prize and the first person to have the Nobel Prize in two different fields. So actually, she really inspired me because of her perseverance in pursuing her research, because I think back then it was quite difficult for women to thrive and survive, of course, in the world of research, where it was highly male dominated even until now. So I think in Indonesia right now, there is data by BPS or Badan Pusat Statistik recently mentioning that there are only 30% of women in the workforce of STEM, and I think that although that there are some of the majors in STEM, such as chemistry, biology, pharmacy, and medicine, is highly dominated by women, actually it is not translated when they go into the workforce. and it would be due to factors such as maybe they could not balance their life, especially when they already have a family, or they already as a working mother as well. So I think it is, although it is a challenge, it creates an opportunity for us, to collaborate, especially between governments, where they could provide a policy for or flexibility for working mothers as well. So yeah.
And when you studied abroad at UCL, did you think that the STEM institutions or enabling environment in the UK was different than Indonesia?
Yeah, of course. I think what we could also learn from the UK is that in the UK, the government of UK, they would provide scholarships for women who would pursue STEM-related majors, and of course they put research at the forefront, for their academic development. And of course, whether you are a man or woman or whatever gender you identify yourself with, you're free to decide whatever major that you want to pursue. And of course, the difference that I also experience in Indonesia and in the UK is the kind of independence in learning that is actually really different. There, the lecturers are more like facilitators. They would already provide such as the materials, and before entering the class we should already do the readings. So on the class we would usually have this discussions between the lecturers and the students.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that front. I studied my master's as well in the United Kingdom.
Wow, cool.
I think, yeah, that was one of the experiences. I felt we were given a lot more of the resources in order to contribute more. Now going back to you, can you talk a little bit more about how you got into the STEM field? I think you mentioned, that only 30% of workers are women in STEM field, and even in the field of education, it's still, seen as a very male-dominated field. So what was your inspiration to go into the STEM field?
Yeah. So actually, I have a privilege where my father was actually coming from an industrial engineering background. So he was actually my first role model to get into the STEM field. But actually what gets me interested in the field of chemistry, it was actually quite accidental. It was not on purpose. So in bahasa Indonesia, maybe we would call it kejeblos. Kejeblos aja gitu. In chemistry, I just entered my second semester in high school, and then my chemistry teacher went up to me and then she mentioned, Chrissy, are you interested to join the National Science Olympiad in chemistry? Wow. So yeah, I was really hesitated at that time because the other representatives were actually this two guys, my senior, and they were already well known as like highly intelligent and already have this tremendous achievements in science. So I was really hesitated at that time, but I know that I will regret it if I didn't try. So I tried. Thankfully I passed the first round, but for the second round I didn't manage to to go into the next provincial round, but it triggers my curiosity to learn chemistry more. So after I graduated high school, then I majored in chemistry.
Wow, that's I think it's a combination of maybe it happened out of nowhere, but it also fell into your lap like it was meant to be.
Yeah, and I think there's a vital importance of how a family could also support you to get into the STEM field as well.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story. I think from your story, the key takeaway is sometimes, you have interests, and then if you pursue them, you can actually make a living out of it or build on that interest as well.
Exactly.
So when you were younger, you didn't study chemistry previously?
No. Okay. Actually, I just know chemistry in high school. And then, from that, I think it's a combination of your family and then your teachers and also your surroundings that that will support your curiosity to learn a specific field.
Yeah, I think sometimes the hardest step is to actually start it. The first
Exactly.
step, the first cut is the deepest. I think that's what they call it.
Yeah.
But how would you then say, for people or especially girls, if they are interested in pursuing STEM-related fields, but they don't really know how to start? Were there any resources that you looked towards?
I think back again for girls, for the first support system that they would get is through school.
Yeah.
So I think what we could focus on is also on empowering and educating the teachers to give them trainings in regards to STEM education. And for resources, I think again, as the current generation, we are privileged enough to have this huge amount of access to informations online, and there are so many platforms and medias for us to learn. I think we have no excuse if we say that we don't really have the resources to learn, because everything is given towards us. I think I could still remember when my parents mentioned that back then, they don't have Google. We could access everything through Google right now, for example. So I think as youth, we could leverage those kind of informations and the exposure to media that is given to us.
Yeah, I think in the digital age, we are very lucky to have access to all of the information in the palm of our hands.
I agree.
I think you also mentioned Marie Curie, and even now, which is maybe decades later from her time, we can still see the underrepresentation of women in the STEM fields. And I think you mentioned a little bit about collaboration between the different public, private, and community sectors. At Pijar Foundation, we also believe in the framework of collaborative governance, where public, private, and community actors come together to solve critical issues. Do you see that also now still in the everyday lives, what you do in your everyday work?
Yeah, I agree that even in Puteri Indonesia, I think I've mentioned it before, that it is a multidisciplinary platform, because we come from different backgrounds, different religions, and different studies as well. But we came for one purpose, one mission, to create an impact for our society, and of course from our different fields. And I think from that collaboration we could have new ideas, because from those kind of difference we could trigger more ideas, trigger more breakthroughs and innovations, because if we are with like-minded people, of course we would get to a position faster. But if we have this kind of differences, although we would be slower to reach to that destination, we could find new breakthroughs and new innovations to create solutions.
Yeah, I think that's also, we can always achieve things faster if we do it together. And I think you mentioned a little bit too, as part of your Puteri Indonesia journey, you had to go and teach. Did you have to teach STEM related fields to?
Actually, what made me want to join Puteri Indonesia is the platform that they give to us, and it's national scale. And just recently we were given this opportunity to become a speaker as a part of a program from Kemenkominfo and Kementerian Pemberdayaan Perempuan dan Pelindungan Anak, called Women Digital Transformation Academy.
Wow.
So it is an event, a webinar where we would gather I think more than 200 women from different communities and organizations in the province, and then the speakers would provide skills in regards to digital literacy, and in the hopes to close the digital talent gap.
Oh, yeah. I think that's another thing we have to think about when we think about the digital age. On one hand, yes, we do have access to information at the palm of our hands, but we have to remember that not everybody has the same access, right?
Exactly.
What do you think are important skills besides, you mentioned digital literacy? So as part of that program, can you talk a little bit more about what you taught the 200 people?
Yeah. So, according to the research by United Nations, by 2050, there will be more than 42 million jobs in regards to renewable energy and energy transition and other green-related jobs. So, I think from that we could also see that there are so many professions and jobs that will be replaced by machines and then technology. So I think what we have as human that the other technologies don't have is the kind of creativity, problem solving skills and critical thinking skills. And I think that are those the kind of skills that needs to be leveraged, especially for students, since maybe they were in elementary school.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think critical thinking and one other thing is maybe empathy is something that machines will never be able to replace.
Exactly.
And as still part of that program, was it 200 people at middle of their career level, or was it younger generations?
I think, as I could remember, there are so many from diverse backgrounds. I think there are students and also those who are fresh graduates who are about to enter the job market. I think it is important for them to have this literacy skills so that they could be more prepared on what kind of skills or what kind of talents that the industry need from them.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. I think if there's another program of the likes, I would definitely
yes, I would definitely inform you, Indira.
Thanks so much. And now going back to the topic, I think you raised, energy transition and the shift to renewable energies. That's a very important topic for Indonesia. The government has set, renewable energy targets domestically as part of the Going Green agenda, and also as part of their G20 priorities. It's one of the 3 priority issues. And at Pijar Foundation, we have a program called Global Future Fellows, and for this year, it's a short-term fellowship. It's meant to be a place where public, private, and community leaders can come together to solve this energy transition in Indonesia. I think you also mentioned, the skills gap sometimes that's needed, and that's our program is meant to sort of close that gap. And in terms of women in STEM, how do you see their role in furthering maybe innovations or solving this critical challenge?
I think we already know that women made up half of the population worldwide, and that's why I think why women's participation is important, that we should have a voice in terms of the development of energy. I'm a big believer that energy would create a transformational power for us to create change. And I think related to energy transition is also climate change, where when we address energy transition, it is not just to improve our economy, but to also reduce the rapidness of the temperature of our planet that is increasing day by day. So I think that by giving women the access to STEM related fields or STEM related majors, they could have their contributions and their voices on that, and in the end they could take part on green economy jobs that will further improve their economy and further improve their well-being and of course the well-being of the planet.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think aside from women making up half of the population, they also make up a large amount of SMEs or small medium enterprises, which are sometimes a forgotten part of the green transition, even though they are a very important part. I think I was wondering, maybe we're as part of your Puteri Indonesia journey again, because you might have had to go to the different provinces and districts in Indonesia. What was the SME landscape there? Did you observe anything in particular?
Yeah, I think part of the Women Digital Transformation Academy, the participants were actually already owning their own SMEs, and the digitalization is actually really crucial in terms of to market their own products. And I think most of the participants there, they even still didn't know how to use such as Instagram and also
okay.
several marketplaces. And I think that's why it is important, for us to, especially as youth, to also teach the elderly and those who are maybe still foreign with our digital landscape that is currently ongoing right now.
Okay. And were there any participants that were reluctant to kind of adopt this digitalization?
I think maybe not reluctant, but sort of. It's quite difficult for them to follow.
Yes.
I think as youth right now, we are already used to with technologies and with our own gadgets, but with them, usually it's quite difficult. So I think one component that we need to have as well is patience, in terms of getting people used to with the developments and the advancement with technology that we have right now.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I think as part of collaborative governance, it's not just collaboration between sectors, but sometimes we forget it's also collaboration between generations.
Exactly.
So there's maybe sometimes different types of trainings or programs that should be more suited to the participants.
Yep. For inclusivity.
Yes,
again.
I agree. And when you see the STEM field in Indonesia, do you think that there are still room for improvement in terms of maybe changing people's mindsets and market practices as well as policies?
Yeah, exactly. I think before even we get into the transformational changes in public policy, we must start with the mindset, and all of those mindset will grow from the smallest part of the ecosystem or the community or even the community, which is family. I think it is important for parents to teach their children that there are no for example boys don't have to play with cars, and girls don't have to play with dolls. Even girls, they could play with cars and then automotives, and even boys, they could dance, they could have, they could leverage their also creative and artistic skills. I think by starting from the family, we could have this mindset to be grown in these children, that that they could be anything despite of what maybe the society told them to.
Yeah, I agree. It starts, at the home level, and it starts with yourself. And sometimes the most dangerous thing is the stereotypes, right?
Exactly.
I remember when I was growing up, it was also STEM field was also something still very male dominated.
Exactly.
And I didn't really have a lot of the resources maybe to pursue it. And I think a little bit different abroad is they have the extracurricular classes, and so I was able to take a little bit more information, but it was mostly out of interest, and I think it was a bit too late for me to
No worries. Yeah, but actually, it's true, Ka. I mean, and abroad, even in elementary schools, they would have this science fair, I think.
Yes.
I think in Indonesia we didn't get to really experience science fair, where all the children would get their volcanoes, or even their own lava lamps, where they would leverage their creativity as well as their own science skills. I think maybe in Indonesia, if we have that, starting from the younger generation, they would have this awareness of what the STEM field is, and with the hopes that in the future they could also have a career or profession in the STEM field.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thanks for that addition as well. And maybe when we think of the STEM field, or at least for me, I still see someone in a white coat, lab coat, and doing one particular job, or a professor writing on a blackboard. But can you talk about the day-to-day of what you do, maybe besides Puteri Indonesia, but with your degree, what's your day-to-day look like?
I see. Yeah, I actually agree with that, Ka. I think one of the reasons why maybe children won't be too interested to go into the STEM field is because of this stereotypes, or there is this notion that STEM is really exclusive, and you have to fit into this I don't know, maybe nerdy look
category,
and
exactly.
nerd category. And I, since high school, I've always been proud to sit in front of the class for every chemistry class that, so when the teacher entered the class for chemistry, I would always sit in front of the class and I'm always proud of that, because I know that I have to follow my curiosity. I have to follow my passion in chemistry. So when I finally followed my passion, and then I get into chemistry, actually our day-to-day job is not just the lab. We could we still have hobbies, and we still have our own life outside of the lab. And one of the things is that I could follow Puteri Indonesia, and to also balance that we scientists don't only work in the lab, but we could have a contribution beyond it as well. And I think it is important to for people to see that we scientists, we are not that rigid, we are not that stiff, but we could actually even have this kind of conversations right now.
Yeah, I think the notion that it's just someone who works behind the lab and behind the scenes, it's very outdated.
Exactly.
And I think having conversations like this and having role models, especially for girls and women like you, speaking in public platforms about the diversity of the STEM-related fields, it's very empowering.
Exactly, science communication.
Yeah, so thank you for being here and
Thank you,
talking
God.
to us. And like you mentioned, maybe communications is also another crucial part of increasing women's participation in STEM-related fields, because if people know that there's no one stereotype that you have to fit in order to pursue a career in this field, then maybe more people will be encouraged to actually take that step.
Exactly.
Yeah. And maybe if you have advice for our listeners, to young girls who want to pursue a STEM-related career, or even women who maybe already have a career but like to pursue something in STEM, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah. I would say that it's definitely going to be a challenging path and a challenging journey, but know that you have to always follow your curiosity, your creativity, and never be afraid to be anything, because you're the first person that know yourselves. Know that you have an amazing support system. I will even be there for you, and I will be always hopeful, and hopefully that there will be many girls following into STEM-related majors as well. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kak Chrissy, for being with us today and for talking to us about your own journey in the STEM-related fields, what the outlook looks like, and maybe the hope for the future is that there will be many more like you girls who pursue. Yeah,
and I do hope that there would be a much more amazing role model than me. I do hope that this is just a start, and hopefully we could increase the participation of women in the STEM field in the future.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for Chrissy Rugian for joining us on this episode of Breaking Barriers, where we talk about issues of women in leadership. And for this topic, we talked about women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and the gap that still exists in Indonesia and the rest of the world, and how women can participate and empower communities and their own lives, and to solve critical issues through the STEM-related fields. Thank you.
Thank you, God.